Last night, RIA of Oakland, Real Estate Investors Association of Oakland, as in Oakland County, Michigan, hosted an event that I was the one that set the whole thing up, so I did the stuff that's interesting to me. And I invited Erika Farley, who works for our lobbyist at RPOAM. I always forget what that stands for, so I'll write that down. She came and spoke to us and told us what is going on in Lansing. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to give you a summary of the things she said, and I have been thinking about a lot of the stuff she said, and I have a very strong opinion. You might even call it a rant. So I'm going to share with you what I think about what is going on, mostly with the government and Section 8, and I'm not going to hold back. So let's get into it. I'm Monique Burns. My husband and I have been buying houses in Detroit since 2007. And we specialize in Section 8. We started off with it. We're used to it. The funding's never been good enough. So this isn't news that the funding, went down. It's like worse than ever. But we're going to talk about that. And we sell houses now. That's what we do primarily. We sell to investors from all over the country and all over the world. And I'm telling my investors now, don't be so focused on Section 8. Things are changing. And that's going to come out in my rant and how I'm handling it, because we have our own buy and holds. But let me give you a summary of what Erika's talking about, and most definitely use this chapters bar below, because you might want to skip ahead and go deep into the parts that I'm telling you that she's going to talk about. So she did start off by talking about in 2023 to 24, Democrats were in control, and there were 100 bills that they tried to pass back then. And it was a big deal. We were very nervous about all the different bills that they wanted to make things really harder on us for being landlords. And our lobbyists stopped a lot of it. One of them that they didn't stop was source of income. She talks about that. That means that when somebody calls and they say, well, I have Section 8, we as a landlord cannot say, well, then I don't accept you. But wait to hear everything else that's changed, and that too is part of my rant. Okay. So she talks about the bills proposed now that they're fighting, and she told us not to worry about rent control in Michigan. That's something that's written into our Michigan Constitution, that we don't have to worry about it, but somehow Ann Arbor is sliding it in. But we don't live in Ann Arbor. We sell houses in Detroit. I'm still a big fan of Detroit. And that she talked about joining the Detroit Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited to see what that means for us. And then she got into it about Section 8 and explained how the federal government doesn't actually have to have a balanced budget, but the states do. And right now, the states are freaking out because they cut Section 8, I've been saying 45%. They cut it by 44%, and she predicts that there's not going to be any new vouchers. It's going to be harder for people to keep their vouchers, but she was talking that they really don't know how they're implementing any of these cuts. And the problem is, because of all the cuts that have happened recently, there is a 1.1 billion, with a B, billion hole in Michigan government. So the idea was they were cutting Section 8 and saying, okay, states, figure out how you're going to make that work, because we're not going to give you all the money anymore. And the difference Michigan was supposed to come up with, but how are they going to do that when they've got no money? And right now, Michigan, the people they're fighting over, well, where are we going to put the funding? In the roads, in K-12, in Section 8? What are we going to do? So we don't really know how it's all going to play out. And she did discuss, this was interesting, about how when they cut the federal, that means the state gets less. And then there's this whole trickle-down effect that goes right to the counties, and then to the cities, and then to the municipalities. And so what happens when they get all the cuts? They start increasing things like our inspection fees. And, that could exactly be what happens. And she talked about short-term rentals, and that they're proposing right now to put a 6% tax on them. And then something about making them taxed the same way as hotels are, which I think she was saying that they were at 12%. And she told us that she knows that we're all getting this petition to sign to stop paying property taxes. And how on earth is anybody going to do anything if we stop paying property taxes? How is anything going to be funded? She said, that's never going to happen. But whatever. She said, if you want to sign it, go ahead, sign it. So now I'm to my rant, okay? So back in 2015 to 2020, my husband and I had a property management company, and we dealt with a ton of Section 8 tenants. And since then, I have been placing tenants left and right. I'm constantly talking to Section 8 tenants. My husband is in the houses doing the maintenance, and he'll come home some days and be like, I don't get it. She doesn't work. Her boyfriend that's not on the voucher doesn't work. They're driving Cadillacs. You should see their televisions. They're living large. How are they doing this? And when I interview tenants, I ask questions. I need to figure out their income. I'm like, so you're going to work, but you have this many kids. Like, it's a dilemma for moms. How are you paying for childcare? Oh, well, the state pays for that. Well, how are you buying food? Well, the state pays for that. And it's just mind-boggling, even when people do work, how much they're being subsidized. And I'm actually kind of fed up with it because I am a taxpayer. It's really hard for us to see as taxpayers other people that are using our tax dollars to live in ways of luxury and have all this leisure time and these nice vehicles and things, and we're just like kind of confused about it. And a thing that the rest of my peers are complaining about, during COVID, rents went way up. I mean, it was crazy. For a 3-bedroom house, back when I had that company in 2015 to 2020, rents were averaging for a 3-bedroom around $800. Our houses were nicer. We got premium. We got $825. Well, now a 3-bedroom, well, like during COVID anyway, got up to $1,500. Is that right? I mean, I kind of don't think so, and I'm the landlord, but I was like, I kind of enjoy getting that much money and I can justify it because taxes has sure gone up. All the costs have gone up. The supplies have gone up. Paying labor has gone up. Everything has gone up. So I could justify it. But on the other hand, I'm like $1,500. And so when they say they're cutting Section 8, maybe things are just going to get back down rent-wise to kind of what it should be. $800 is probably too cheap. Maybe $1,000 is more reasonable. And maybe landlords shouldn't complain so much, like my investors are so happy because they're getting a 12% return on investment. I don't know that that's possible anymore. Those were the days. Those were great days. Is that even possible? Shouldn't we be happy with a 10% return on investment? Some people aren't getting any return. They're just counting on the appreciation, and I'm like, oh, well, 12%, if it's not 12%, what good is it? Maybe 10% is great. Maybe we need to make the adjustments. I want to comment on this source of income discrimination, and I am going to be risky here. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice, but I highly doubt that we could be charged for making financial decisions. Fair housing comes with a list of the kinds of people that need protection, but running a business, we have to make financial decisions. And I don't think fair housing is out to get us for making financial decisions. For instance, now that Section 8 has changed, some of these housing commissions are so backlogged. For instance, Detroit Housing Commission, I just found out last night, took 5 months before they started initiating payments after a tenant moved in. That's a financial decision if an owner is going to choose to rent to somebody from that housing commission. And then there's Westland Housing Commission. They aren't keeping their original rent that they had promised when the tenant moved in. At their annual recertification, they are lowering the rent. So that too is a financial decision that a landlord has to make. I think what I'm doing with my own business, I'm not saying no to Section 8. That's still government money. That's promised money. I am just looking at every tenant and trying to be fair and looking at who seems to be the person that's going to be able to pay the rent every month and keep up my house. And I hardly think that this source of income thing is going to come out for me. Could be wrong. Comment below. What do you think about that? Because I'm not a lawyer, just saying. What's super helpful is if you follow my channel. I give you all the updates as I'm learning them because I'm front lines with this. I meet once a month with this lobby group and I find out the things that are going on. And I'm working right now on getting somebody from MISHDA, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, when they know a little bit more, to come talk to my RIA group. I'll record that. But I think you'll find what Erika has to say pretty interesting. And so let's check it out.
Yeah, so those of you who are members of the Oakland area are members of our Governmental Affairs Committee. And so I am in Lansing and dealing with the local units of government representing you. Your representatives on our committee, we meet usually every 60 days, are Monique and Jay. The Rent Property Owners Association of Michigan, I'm going to give you our web address because I always do, which is RPOAM online.org. That also has our quarterly magazine in there. My governmental affairs reports are in there, plus a bunch of other information on there. All our media hits are on there. There's a big list of those and all the links for that. And then information on the annual conference that we have. And Knowles Group is one of the sponsors of one of our conference that we have in October. And last year we had David Green come and he was our keynote speaker, and we will be announcing our keynote again soon. That's a two-day conference. This year it's in Grand Rapids. I'm pushing to do it east because I'm an east side girl. So, but that's me. And so my background is mainly in governmental affairs and politics and lobbying and administration and management. So I'm going to tell you guys what I know has been happening recently. So last term, and through 23 and 24, we had some changeover in Lansing, and the Democrats took control of a lot of things. And so there was a lot of legislation that had to deal with rental properties. We had over 100 bills that would have put more regulations on rental properties, including short-term rentals, and would have made it more difficult, including getting rid of criminal background checks, getting rid of credit checks, rent control. I could go on and on and on. So we had over 100 bills. The only thing that they were able to get passed, along with our coalition partners, with the Management Association, Apartment Association, mobile homes, that we have worked together, was the source of income legislation. And everybody's heard about source of income, yes? No. Okay. So the source of income law that went into place, which we have a fun little term with everything that's happening with Section 8 and HUD that just happened out of the federal government, which makes things complicated. But so source of income said that you cannot turn down a potential tenant based just on the fact that they have Section 8 housing or VA benefits, Social Security, any kind of government benefit. So you still have to consider them. So that was the main thing that they got passed. Now, we worked very hard to water down that legislation. Originally, that legislation, because I've been with the RPOA now for a little over 2 years. It was the very first thing I went to testify on, because part of my job is going to Lansing and testifying in opposition to these bills, talking to legislators, talking to Governor Whitmer's administration, dealing with MSHA, dealing with the State Court Administrative Office on 4 rules, all on your behalf. So this is the source of income bills were the very first bills for you guys that I've been testifying in committees for a long time, but for you guys, and those bills originally said basically if your tenant's uncle has a note that says he super promises to pay the rent, you would have had to consider it. That it was not for the length of the lease. Now, whatever benefit that they have has to be for the length of the lease. So if your lease is 12 months, that benefit, you have to be able to prove that that benefit runs the full 12 months. So we worked very hard on really tightening up that language, so hopefully it did not make your lives much more difficult. I've had a couple people ask me recently, what does the RPOA do for me? And my response, and my dad would tell me not to respond this way, but is if your life has not changed a lot on regulation, especially from the state, over the last 24 months plus, then I have done my job. And that's what you're getting from the RPOAM, because we worked very, very hard and we continue to do so. There was a bill that was introduced today, in the Michigan House of Representatives, that would get rid of application fees again. We have been working very hard and testifying on bills about right to repair, which would basically allow tenants, if you don't respond within 24 hours, if you fix the problem at the property within 24 hours, they would be able to fix it and charge you for it. So we've been working very hard on those bills. I just had a couple meetings on that yesterday. Those bills are sitting on the Senate floor, and we are concerned that they're going to become part of the budget negotiation. I'll get to the budget in a second. And the getting rid of criminal background checks, that has also been introduced by Republicans. So please do not get too comfortable, because the Michigan House of Representatives has a Republican majority right now, because they have technically a 60 majority. We need 56 votes to pass the bill in the Michigan House of Representatives. So they can lose two votes, that's it. Well, last week, they weren't able to get all the Republicans over to the House floor to even vote. So they sat there and just kind of stared at each other for a long time, because they couldn't get the Republicans over there to vote. So we cannot rest on our laurels, because housing is a major policy issue and will continue to be so for the foreseeable future. So we are working very hard in Lansing on several fronts. One thing I'm going to tell you, and I get this question a lot as I go around and we represent all over from the tip of Minton all the way down to the Ohio-Indiana line, is do not worry about rent control. It's not going to happen, except for maybe in Ann Arbor. Okay? Ann Arbor is its own little beast, but don't worry about the rent control. Everybody take it back. But we are working very hard on that. One of the things that the RPOAM is doing, and I am actually have talked to them, and I will be writing the check tomorrow, is we are joining the Detroit Chamber of Commerce, because that's actually going to give you guys some more information and give you guys more access, because we are expanding farther and deeper into Southeast Michigan, and we also have a firm, a lobbying firm that we work with called Karoub Associates. Advocacy is our lobbyist. She has been for RPOA for 20 plus years. And we are going in, we're going to wait until after the election. But we're talking to the mayoral candidates and for the city of Detroit, because Detroit is always our premier. And then, of course, into Grand Rapids and Lansing and Flint and Saginaw and all those good places that we are working. We will be, actually, to our membership, we will be releasing here in the next 30 days the list of as many as we can come up with, major municipalities of all their inspection, their timelines, and their costs. So that'll be something that we're going to be releasing to our members, and we're going to be compiling all the core information for everybody, and we'll be getting that out to our membership too. So we'll share that with Monique and Jay. If you are a member of this RIA, then they will pass that on to you. One of the other things that I have talked about a lot recently is Section 8 changes. Has everybody heard about the big beautiful bill, right, that came out of Congress? So in July, for the very first time in a very long time, and this is going to trickle down to the state, and that's why I'm starting here, Congress, that is controlled by Republicans right now, of course we have a Republican in the White House, it passed budget bills, first time in forever. Because in Washington, D.C., they can do this thing called a continuing funding resolution, and so they don't actually have to balance the budget. They can just keep churning it out. The state can't do that. The state has to balance the budget every year. If they don't, state government will shut down, which the clock is ticking, but we'll get there. So they passed the big, beautiful bill. And I call it that because that's literally the name of it. If you Google it, you go to the congressional site where it pulls up all the bills introduced in Congress. That is the name of the bill. That's why I'm calling it that. The main thing that we are concerned about here is the fact that the HUD budget, HUD itself, the department, was cut by 50%, and Section 8 was cut by 44%. So what does that mean for all of you? That means that new people are not going to be getting housing vouchers. As you guys already know, housing vouchers were short already. I would get calls, I have gotten a lot of calls, you get in there and they're like, there's no more vouchers left. And I said, yes, of course there are more vouchers left. There will be less. And they're going to be very tight on who gets to maintain those vouchers. That's what's going to be happening with Section 8. The implementation of all that is still coming. Legislative bodies have this great ability of passing things without actually knowing how they're going to work. They do it all the time. And that's how this is going to be. So we're waiting to see, we have talked to Misha and what they're waiting on. And they're actually waiting to put out guidelines. Misha's waiting to put out guidelines to see what the feds do. But the main thing I can tell you is those Section 8 voucher dollars are super cut. Like, there's not a lot left. And some of your people who have them now, if you take Section 8 residents, may be losing their vouchers. That's just the reality of the situation. Will that change in the future? It's going to depend on who gets elected. That's just the long and the short of it. But for now, for the next 2 years, minimum, that's where we're going to stand. Because Medicaid got cut, vouchers got cut. The only thing in the federal government, the only thing in the federal budget that really got raised was defense spending. So you just have to plan on that. So as we move through, so this is what's happening in Washington. They're working on implementing these changes and these major cuts. DOGE that you all heard about, like we're cutting everything, whatever, that's gone away the door. This has all come to budget cuts through Congress. Elon Musk is long gone, he has other things to do. Yeah, or government is way more, it's not as fun as exciting as people think it is, and not always as, sometimes there is a skill to figuring out how all the dots connect. So don't worry about DOGE anymore, but these are congressional cuts, and they're still trying to figure out how this is going to work with these congressional cuts. So because of that, we've had some trickle down, which is the fact that the state of Michigan is working on the budget. It's not that the state of Michigan has to balance their budget, right? And so they have to have that done by midnight on September 30th, October 1. If not, the state government shuts down. The Senate Democrats and the Democratic governor can't agree, which is great, they're fighting right now. And then, of course, the Republicans are fighting with the Democrats on the budget. And they want to get roads done, they want to get more road funding done, which is becoming an issue. And the reason that it is, now we have a $1.1 billion hole, billion with a B, in the Michigan budget because of the cuts at the federal level. Why do we care? 2 reasons we care. One is they were hoping to backfill some housing dollars. Michigan was hoping to use some state money to backfill housing dollars. There's no money for that. And 2, the main reason I'm concerned about it is because they have to get the votes. Republicans have to get the votes, Democrats have to get the votes, because their majorities are so small. The Democrat majorities are very small in the Senate, and the Republican majorities are very small in the House. So horse trading begins on policy bills. And that's where housing policy becomes an issue. We will move your bill if you vote for this budget. Happens all the time. It is not illegal. It is not about money under the table. It is about you have something that you want to get done. So if you help us out, we're going to help you out. This is not anything. This has been happening since the dawn of time. So that's where our concern really starts, and that we're monitoring, is what bills potentially will start to become part of the horse trading on budgets, especially in housing, because the Democrats want to get something done on housing. The Senate Majority Leader, Winnie Brink, she's from Grand Rapids, she is a Democrat. She said she wants to get something done on housing. This is like her big push before she's done at the end of next year. So September's going to be very busy for us. Trying to make sure that we are keeping track and you're feeding those things back and hoping and working very hard to make sure that they do not become part of the budget negotiations. So they're passing things to getting some wins. So, and then as that happens, it's coming down. Once the federal budget is cut and the state budget becomes cut, that means the local units of government are cut. Because every single municipality gets something called revenue sharing. And the counties, cities, villages, townships, they all get this thing called revenue sharing from the state. And as soon as the state budget gets cut, revenue sharing for the municipalities get cut, and then you have to start talking about inspection fees, and what does it look like for the county health departments to come in on mold and lead, and et cetera, et cetera. So whatever starts at the top, we all know it rolls downhill, and that's what we're trying to keep track of and make sure, A, that you have the information on, and then at the places where we can fight it off. So that's a lot of, so you guys don't have to do it and worry about it every day. That's my job, and that's why the importance of us all. I keep telling people, one of my favorite quotes is from Benjamin Franklin, either all hang together or we hang separately. So the more, and this is about my job, this is about representing you, the more members a place has than Oakland area has, the louder your voice is. And that's why it's so important that everybody hangs together and you're part of a professional association. Because I try to remind our membership that not only are you community members, because pretty much, I know somebody said that they were from Alabama, but pretty much everybody lives in Michigan, right? Right? You live in Michigan, you live in these communities, you pay taxes, right? And then you hire people to help maintain your properties, you're paying the insurance company, so your job providers, okay? Your small businesses. And all those things have to be represented because the taxes and the regulations and those things matter. Even though I'm sure sometimes it feels like you're on an island by yourself with your properties or what you do, it is very, very important that even more that you come together, because one of the other things that we are working on, and someone mentioned it, was short-term rentals. They are reintroducing 2 bills on short-term rentals. They want to put a 6% excise tax on short-term rentals, which will bring the taxes on short-term rentals. They want to define short-term rentals, which is not in state law yet. And they also want to raise the taxes on short-term rentals higher than what it is on hotels. No, who's the hotel? What's that? My people across the table from me on those are from the hotel industry, hotel and restaurants.
What's their tax rate?
Their tax rate is 12, and this would put this everything combined for the short-term rentals at 13.5. And then they want to create a registry for all short-term rentals in the state of Michigan. So if you own a short-term rental in the state of Michigan, you would be on a registry that the state would hold. So we are working very hard on that. He's asking about protections for tenants who have lost their Section 8. Are there protections written in from eviction? The answer is not right now. But could they? Yes, because just like they extended the COVID era court rules, because those were temporary, and then they extended them. That's why evictions are taking longer, and the state Supreme Court oversees that. They decide that. Things can be done like that for people who lose their Section 8, but they haven't gotten there yet because the cuts are so new. As I said, just because they've done it does not mean they're prepared to put it into action yet, but it will come. No, the state court administrative office is not looking at the court rules. We've asked, we are talking to them, we continue to talk to them, and we testified in opposition to them to the public hearings. But one of the things that we are working on is with the real estate law section at the bar, because they don't like them either. So we are working with the Bar Association on pushing the state court administrative office. The elimination of property taxes, I know that they've been trying to pass around petitions for 2 years. It will never happen, okay? They won't being able to collect enough signatures is a multi-million-dollar effort. They don't have it. The state legislature, including the Republicans, don't support it. And I'm not telling you that there doesn't, I mean, Prop A is what, like 30 years old or something. I don't know, back when I was in grade school or something, but it's not gonna happen. So feel free to sign it if you want, but it's not gonna happen. And the question I had for them, because I was this was 2 years ago, I was at a group and speaking, and I said to the gentleman collecting the signatures, how are you gonna backfill the property taxes? Like, it pays for a huge pay for school. Because if you think that, even if it did get on the ballot, if it did, everybody, all those municipalities, the schools especially, who take money from property taxes will not get someone to put millions and millions and millions of dollars to fight a campaign against it. They're sorely mistaken. But my question was, how are we going to backfill those dollars? Anybody. And they have no answer they have no answer. So the answer is no, feel free to sign it. It's not going to happen. One, you're right, you do need to come to Lansing, and that's why we're having our Advocacy Day on Tuesday, October 23rd. Information is going to go out at the end of the month. RPOAM never really did this before. I instituted this for the first time 2 years ago. We didn't do it in an election or on purpose. And we will have a sign up for you guys to come to Lansing and to talk to legislators. That, yes, for sure. When it comes to, this is what I'll say, so yes, definitely. When it comes to contacting your legislators, you guys, of course, are always welcome to contact your legislators because you voted for them, or you pay their salaries. Like what we did last December, we make sure that we do any kind of call to action or big push as a collective to legislators. We are very careful when we do it because we want to make sure they listen to us. If it happens too much, they ignore it. So last December, we sent out, because we had several things going through, it was that lame duck session that I was talking about. We sent things out to membership to please get in touch with your legislators. This is why there was a big push, and guess what? Nothing got done except for the source of income. So the answer is yes, we're right. We are just very tactical of how we do it and when we do it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.